All right. Let's get on to teleprompters. There we are. All right. Okay. Well, I am recording this on January 2nd, 2024. Happy New Year, everyone. I did not hold the live stream last Saturday like I had intended to. It just things came up, and I didn't have time for it. So anyway, not that anybody ever shows up, which is actually a good thing because I'm still learning all of this. Anyway, welcome to part 3 of women working in construction from the 13th century to the present day. And this is going to be an exciting one. Let's see. Jeez. All right. Anyway, a little bit of housekeeping to start out with. The last live stream, held on December 23rd, 2023, went well. It was longer than I'd planned, but still a bit shorter than the previous episode. So I'm getting better, maybe. I do not know why, but Facebook only retained the last 26 minutes of the live stream, but Riverside FM, the platform that I stream from, retained all of it. So I made it to the YouTube channel, and it actually made it on time, which is a first for me. Well, actually, the first episode went public a little bit before the Wednesday scheduled time. So I figure if you're going to be inconsistent, better early than late. But it's better to be consistent. Anyway, let's see. Then, even though that episode went public on schedule, I forgot to post the stupid thing on the YouTube version to the podcast Facebook page. So one step forward, one step back, or maybe 2 steps forward and 1 step back, because I am making progress. Anyway, thank you for bearing with me as I, kind of go over all of this newbie stuff. I do that so that if any new people happen to watch this, don't worry about making a mistake, because it's just a natural process of the learning curve. But anyway, the previous episode is up there now, and I will strive to do better with this episode. To recap, previously on the This is Construction podcast, part 1 of this series covered the exclusion and, in some instances, minimal inclusion of women working in the construction industry, especially as trades professionals from the 13th century up to the end, more or less, of the 19th century. Links to my primary references for that episode are in the description for that episode. I will include a link to that episode in the description for this episode, as well as the link to part 2. Anyway, in part 2, still looking at what was going on in Britain and elsewhere in Europe, I talked about how the 2 world wars affected women's ability to work in the construction industry, and we made it up to 1975. In this, the final episode, I'm going to look at the period from 1975 to the present, which is I'm not going to look at 2024 because this is only the second day of the year. So it's going to go from 1975 to 2023, and how women's presence in the construction industry has not only continued to gain traction, but really took off in 2016. So let's tuck into part 3 of this project. Part 3 of this series, in part 3 of this series, I'm going to continue to refer to Omitted from History, Women in the Building Trades by Linda Clark and Chris Wall. But I'll also be using some other references, and I'll include links to all of those in the description below in the YouTube version of this, as well as in the show notes over at thisisconstruction.net. So, all right, in the latter half of the 20th century, women were beginning to make more of a permanent entrance into the construction trades, but they weren't very common. I'm in the USA, and I'm going to be talking about basically what was going on in the USA during this period of time, because that's what I'm familiar with. From what I understand, women were also making great strides in Europe. I cannot speak to the rest of the world. I have not researched that. But if you are watching this and you're working anywhere in North America, in Europe, or anywhere else in the world in construction, and you are a woman, I would love to hear anything you have to say about your journey. You can leave that down in the comments, or if you want, you can contact me directly via email. And if you go over to thisisconstruction.net, all my contact information is there, as well as it's in the description for this video on YouTube. But anyway, as I said, I'm in the USA, and I started working in the masonry trades in the mid-1980s in Portland, Oregon. At least on commercial construction jobs, I was usually the only one or one of a very small number of female construction workers on any given job. When I left the construction industry around the beginning of 2009, there were more women. There were more women working on commercial construction jobs, but still not that many. Let's see. While women weren't super common on residential jobs, they were more common than on the commercial jobs. And I think that may have been due to very small businesses like sole proprietorships and small LLCs being more common in the residential end of construction than on large commercial projects. And that's especially on residential remodels. Residential remodels were, especially with specialty contractors, like what I did. I was a specialty tile and stone contractor. I just worked by myself. I did not have any employees. And, there are a lot of people, little, small family businesses doing that type of work. So, I mean, those, it's a family business. Of course, women are involved. But anyway, when I did come back after getting out in 2009, when I did come back to construction in 2018, I was pleasantly surprised to see many more women working in the trades. And that was in large-scale commercial construction. I remember I worked for several weeks on the New Multnomah County Courthouse in Portland, Oregon. I worked on that patching stone. And there were women all over the place, and in the bricklayers and allied crafts workers, and also in the plasterers local based in Portland, Oregon. Right now, there are women, a lot of women in the apprenticeships programs. It's just really was a pleasant surprise for me. So, what happened in the intervening 9 or 10 years that all of these women were working in the trades all of a sudden, from my perspective, all of a sudden? Well, It looks like, as in the past, women have stepped in because there was a shortage of men in the industry. This was caused by record low unemployment in general in the U.S., combined with a shortage of young people entering the trades. Industry leadership in the trades, as well as business associations, reached out, and once again, women answered the call. In the early to mid 2010s, labor associations increased outreach to women, and new training programs, especially pre apprentice training programs, were created for women in order to encourage women to enter the construction trades. One of the organizations that was very influential is Chicago Women in Trades. That's CWIT. CWIT has been around for 40 years and has been very influential in bringing women into the trades. This was the National Task Force on Tradeswomen's Issues, TNTTI, which has worked since 2011 to make it easier for women to enter the trades and to address equity in the construction industry. They also were successful in getting the funding restored for the women in apprenticeship and non-traditional occupations. That's WANTO. That funding was cut in 2012. They have also been instrumental in making it easier for women to enter and prosper in the construction industry by working with various federal agencies and national labor organizations to encourage businesses to hire more women and for those businesses to have an advantage in public money construction contracts. In 2014, the AFL-CIO and the task force began collaborating and together working with the federal government as well as collecting and publicizing stories from women working in the industry. And from 2015, the task force continued to be instrumental in promoting women working in the trades and securing women's ability to continue to be welcomed in the trades through government regulations and promotion of training opportunities for women. In 2018, a research subgroup was formed by the task force, and in 2019, even more progress was made as far as women working in the construction industry. In addition to worker and organization advocacy in government, that advocacy was also extended to businesses, encouraging them to recruit women to work in the construction industry as skilled trades workers as well as in management positions. Part of this advocacy focused on helping contractors and other businesses to engage in recruitment practices that don't discourage women to apply for jobs and create a work and business environment that's more friendly to women. Something that I find interesting is that Hispanic women make up the bulk of women currently working in construction, and it's possible that networking may have had something to do with that, given that over 1 in 5 Hispanic men working in the U.S. work in the construction industry. I had no idea. That's pretty cool, though. As I've mentioned in the past, it was this type of networking that got me into the masonry trades. Had it not been for my father asking me if I wanted to come to work with him, it never would have occurred to me to even consider construction to be a possible career choice. And remember, this was in the mid 80s, a time when women weren't encouraged to work in any of the trades except by a family member. In high school, I really wasn't encouraged to do anything other than go to college by my guidance counselor. But even with all this, women still make up a small percentage of the construction workforce at just 14% as of August 2022. Just a little bit higher than mining and logging, which is at 13.3%. And that's a kind of an interesting statistic, but it shouldn't be surprising because it's also an industry where traditionally have never seen or almost never seen women. So anyway, we have a long way to go. but I think that we won't backslide like we did after the two world wars. There are several reasons why I'm optimistic. First off, our culture has changed, at least in the U.S. With the advent of the women's rights movement, and government regulations that support women working in many different careers, not the least of which is construction. The culture of the country is very different with regard to women working outside of the home, and especially in trades that were traditionally not considered something that a woman would work in. Two, support and networking resources for women working in the construction trades are much more common than they were in the past. And with the internet, they are much more accessible than they were back in the day when I entered the industry. When I came into the industry, there was very, very little recruitment going on, at least that I was aware of, in the trades. My sister-in-law, my elder brother's wife, uh, did start. I think she started an apprenticeship with the electricians with the IBEW. And IBEW in some parts of the country is notoriously difficult to get into just because they're one of the few trades that I am aware of that are not lacking in people wanting to become, to enter their trade and become journeyed. Um, I don't know why that is. I never wanted to be an electrician because I think electricity likes me too much. Um, I'm always getting shocked by things. It just, electricity gravitates to me. And so I was like, yeah, no, I have a hard enough time installing tile around electrical plugins. It seems even when the power was shut off, I was still getting zapped by static electricity off of something. But anyway, I was like, yeah, it looks like fun, but no thanks. But apparently, an awful lot of people, both men and women, want to become electricians. So IBEW doesn't seem to have too much of a problem with recruitment, but I mean, just about everybody else does. Just about all the other trades do. So anyway, I wish that in uh, the mid 1980s and into the 1990s, there had been the robust networking systems that we have now, and also organizations like the Chicago Tradeswomen, Oregon Tradeswomen. There are many pre-apprenticeships, as I talked about in the episode about the apprenticeship programs and training. And I'll put a link to that down in the description as well. But as I discussed in that episode, networking is really important, especially if you're in an area, if you're willing to travel and you live in an area where the work in your chosen trade or trade group is can be kind of hit and miss. For instance, like when I was working as a marble mason and doing stone repair and field fabrication. Um, Portland, Oregon is a wonderful place. I grew up in Portland and I lived in Portland, recently. I'm back out in the countryside living now, but I enjoy living in Portland. Um, and Portland is the largest city, I believe, still in the state of Oregon. But if you're doing stone repair, it's not a city big enough with enough buildings with stone that need to be repaired for you to work full time. Uh, if you were an independent contractor and doing small specialty work, and you're good, you can definitely work full time if you want to. But if you're doing commercial work, which is generally what the members of the bricklayers union in Portland are doing. Um, if you're a bricklayer and laying block, you're probably going to be able to work, fairly steadily. But if you're a tile setter or a marble mason, or like with me, I specialized in for the marble masonry. I specialized in stone repair and field fabrication. If you want to work steady, you have to be willing to travel. And networking across the country, I have just in the past several months have been astounded at the ability, on the internet through social media platforms like Facebook. Um, the ability for women and also men to network across the country. That's one of the things that the internet has really been a wonderful resource for. As much as the internet can be kind of a dumpster fire uh, socially, if you curate where you go on the internet, it can actually be an incredible resource. Uh, you know, um, it's like a sword, it has two edges, and as with anything, it can be used for good, or used for just unpleasantness. Um, so anyway, let's see. These networking uh, groups let women communicate with each other all over the world and all over their country or region, which, as I said, makes it a lot easier to work. Um, if your area is experiencing a slowdown in their trade, or even if you want to add a trade or sub trade to your repertoire. Um, if you're cross trained, you're more versatile, and there's a better chance that you're going to be able to uh, uh, work, work more steadily. Anyway, um, the third reason have, uh, you know, I'm very hopeful about women staying in the trades instead of, oh, well, things are going better and the men are all back, and so we don't need you ladies anymore. Uh, third reason why I think there's less chance of that happening is the more women work in the construction industry, especially in the trades, the more men and society as a whole will get used to seeing women and working with them on various jobs. Also, seeing women work in construction jobs normalizes that for other women and for young girls who will be deciding on a career path. Construction jobs pay well for the most part, and union construction jobs enable workers, both men and women, to earn a living wage, have a good set of medical benefits, and have a very good retirement to look forward to. Um, Also, many businesses that are either construction contractors or are a part of the support infrastructure for the construction industry, they are promoting women working in the construction industry on their websites. That's important, and because it's publicly, and it's a part of the official policy and uh, culture of that business. Also, people in the industry are acknowledging that women bring a different perspective to their work in the industry. Businesses recognize this and see the value in it. We are in a golden age as far as women working in the construction industry, but it was made possible by decades and centuries of incremental changes to societies, with advances in opportunity for women and losses of those advantages as well over time. The thing to do is to not sit on our laurels, which is one reason, one reason why I did this series. And also, I will continue to produce Spotlight episodes. Spotlight are I originally intended the Spotlight episodes to be like 20 minutes, half an hour long, just kind of a short introduction to a trade. But I would like to do longer Spotlight episodes on individual, on various women working in various trades and other parts of the construction industries. And uh, so if you're a woman working in any of the trades or any other part of the construction associated industries, the support industries, if you're driving waste management type of truck, if you're dropping off dumpsters and picking up dropping off empty dumpsters and picking up filled dumpsters at a construction site, and you would like to talk about what you do, please contact me, because as with general living, waste management services are integral to construction. Debris is created and it needs to be picked up and hauled off from the construction site. So, what you're doing as a truck driver to move that material off site and get it to where it can either be sorted or just, dumped, just disposed of. If you would like to talk about what you do, shoot me an email, because I would like to have you on as a guest, because you are an integral part of the construction industry, and the construction industry is an integral part of what we do every single day of our lives, and all day of every single day of our lives. So anyway, one of the reasons why I'm doing this series is to continue to educate girls and women to consider the construction industry as a choice, or as a source of career choices, and to continue to do the best job that you can do in your trade or other area of the industry that you're working in. So keep working at it, ladies. We are here, we are effective, and we will be working alongside men to make all of the structures that we all depend on every day. So that pretty much wraps it up for this episode. One of the things that I would like to do in future episodes is do a spotlight on the CWIT and the other organizations that are making it possible for women to work in the trades. So I will be planning other things like that. But for now, we're going to do something completely different. From the realm of awesome. Let's see. All right. You may not know this, being that this is a new podcast, but I am a bit of a nerd about a lot of different topics. Learning about physics has been a hobby of mine since I was in high school. My first physics book was A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking, and I think I read that when I was in high school, and I graduated in '81. So that's kind of when I got super interested in physics. I read that, and I have been hooked on physics ever since. But that's not this week's selection, although I do suggest that it's, even though it's an old book, it's still a good book. So if you haven't and you're interested in physics, it's a really good read, and I highly recommend it. No, this week's selection is even more awesome. I mean, it's kind of Stephen Hawking's kind of a hard act to follow, but Neil deGrasse Tyson's Star Talk on YouTube is following it in fine fashion. Director of the Hayden Planetarium in New York City, Neil started Star Talk years ago. Originally, or at least when I first started watching, it was produced as a TV series, if I remember right, by National Geographic. And I think that the episodes were even taped at the museum with a live studio audience. The Hayden Planetarium is a part of, I think, the Natural History Museum. I should look that up. Hang on a second. As I cough. Without a cough button, not a good thing. All right, hang on a second here. I'll move this over. There we go. All right. Yes, it is. It is a part of the it is a part of the Natural History Museum in New York City. Anyway, let's see. Now I got to go back over here to the other screen. Okay. Oh, there we go. Anyway, when Nat Geo canceled the series, Neil went on to produce it independently. And the YouTube channel for the show has years worth of episodes covering all sorts of physics topics, such as astrophysics, my personal favorite. They also have it for you who are interested in sports. Sports ain't my thing. There's nothing wrong with sports. I don't have a problem with sports. Well, I have a little problem with football, but sports per se, I don't have a problem with. But it's not my thing, so I just don't watch sports programming, except for the series that they have on Star Talk that's about the physics of sports. That's cool. That's interesting to me. And I actually have learned a lot more about sports, various individual sports, than I ever would have had it not been for Star Talk. So they have all sorts of different types of physics programming on there. So anyway, if you're interested in physics in any way, shape, or form, Star Talk is on YouTube, is a channel that 5 stars all the way. And also, one of his co-hosts is comedian Chuck Nice, and Chuck is. I don't watch it I don't watch Star Talk just for Neil and the physics. I also watch it for Chuck because Chuck is freaking awesome. So anyway, there will be a link to that in the description, and also a link to Star Talk's website. So let's see what else I got up. Wrap up and plans for the future. Okay, so here's the bits. All right, so 2023 is over. And it's time for the 2024 plans for this podcast and its sister podcast, yay, Wild for Art, which hasn't had its grand opening episode yet. Excuse me. Take a swig of coffee here first, see if that helps. Oh, sorry about the crash there. Wild for Art has not had its grand opening episode yet, but it's coming. And there will be crossover episodes between This is Construction and Wild for Art. uh, because I'm an artist and also a masonry professional, there are going to be some crossover episodes between the two podcasts that will be kind of interesting. And I'm going to get into some kind of esoteric subtrades as far as masonry and artwork goes. So those will be on both podcasts. I have a project that I am starting, and if you look up here, this picture here, and this guy right here, the giraffe, those two are going to feature in a pair of, probably, if I'm able to do what I think I can do. These two, plus some other really interesting wildlife art, is going to feature. They are going to feature in some crossover episodes between Wild for Art, and This is Construction. So stay tuned for that. That's all going to be happening this year. The January, sometime in January, I am going to be doing my first. I'll be doing the grand opening podcast episode for Wild for Art, and it is going to it's going to be a crossover episode for This is Construction. So anyway, I'm really super duper excited for that. And a number of years ago, I used to do artwork, wildlife art, and animal portraiture full time. Well, not full time, but I did it professionally. And a number of years ago, I had a lot of changes going on in my life, and I still have the passion for doing the artwork, but I lost my drive to do artwork, which is a really weird place to be. It's like, oh, I want to do that. No, I'll do it tomorrow. It's that kind of motivational issue. So this podcast, This is Construction, and the Wild for Art, getting Wild for Art podcast, getting both of those spun up at the same time, more or less, has kind of gotten my drive back to do artwork. I've been working on this dude for a little bit every once in a while, just because, and now I'm going to be working a lot more on him to try different things out, because what I want to do with this and what I want to do with the leopard are kind of complex. It's a new material and process to me, although it's a very old, hundreds of years old process. As far as the construction industry, um, uh, as far as the construction industry goes. It is a part of the decorative finishes. It's not structural, but it's definitely a decorative finish in the construction industry. And so, anyway, that's all I'm going to tease of that right now. Y'all will just have to keep watching and to see what kind of crazy things I'm going to be doing here in 2024. Which reminds me, if you like this episode, please give it a thumbs up. And if you have not subscribed yet, don't forget to subscribe. That's very important. And if you want to, click the little bell so that you get notified of new episodes, which I am going to do my best to keep having This is Construction go public on Wednesdays. And for the first couple months, probably, Wild for Art will probably just be twice a month. Eventually, I want to be doing This is Construction and Wild for Art weekly. But This is Construction is, I think, the most important uh, of the two podcasts. And so This is Construction is going to stay on Wednesdays or at least once a week. um, Wild for Art, I'm doing right now just kind of as a hobby and a fun thing. It's not always going to have episodes that are crossovers with This is Construction. But anyway, I will post there's always a link to the Wild for Art website. And so if you want to go over there, check out my work. That's the sister website to This is Construction. And check it out. And you can take the YouTube link to the Wild for Art YouTube channel. And if you want, go ahead and subscribe there too. And Wild for Art has a second sister channel. I actually have 3 channels that I produce, although the third one doesn't have a whole lot of activity on it right now. But you can go over and check that out too. You can check all of that out at wildforart.com, and as always, links in the description. Let's see. Let's see. I'm scrolling through. I just off the top of my head went through everything else that I written down in the script for this episode. So anyway, there's some stuff now I'm looking in the script that I'm gonna hold off for next week's This is Construction episode. Let's see. And I think one of the things that I want to do a spotlight episode on, now that I probably won't be doing any more 2 or 3 parters. I will probably for the next month be doing spotlight episodes. One of the which are, as I said, the kind of an intro to a various, a given trade, or even a sub trade within a trade group. But one of the ones that I want to do this month is operating engineers, because operating engineers and equipment operators are just fascinating to me. I had a farm, owned a farm with a partner a number of years ago, and I remember when we got a tractor, and I love gear. I got gas, gear acquisition syndrome, and I love big gear. And I just wanted a backhoe. We never needed a backhoe, but I wanted one anyway. If I win the lottery, there's going to be a lot of equipment buying going on. But anyway, I remember when we got the tractor, and it was so cool to be able to drive around. It had a little front end loader on it. And we used wood chips for a lot of things. And before the tractor, I had been moving everything with a pitchfork and a wheelbarrow. And well, I tell you what, once we got that tractor, that was all she wrote. The pitchfork and the wheelbarrow got demoted to hauling off horse manure from the various paddocks. But anyway, operating engineers do a lot more than just operating equipment, and that's one of the trades that I want to do a spotlight episode on this month. Another one that I want to do a spotlight episode on are the plasterers, and so and the plasterers is that going to tie into what's going to be going on with Wild for Art. So anyway, stay tuned for those. Some really, really interesting stuff is going to be going on. So I think we're at 44 and a half minutes. Hey, not bad. Just for me yakking. Anyway, I think. Let's see. That's already done. This is already done. Scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. Let's see. Uh, let's see, not doing that, not doing that. All right. Anyway, I want to wish everybody a prosperous and happy 2024. And it's only the second, so I can still say Happy New Year, everyone. So I guess that's it. And I am out.